We're good.
Good. Louise, good?
There you go.
Okay, good. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to council. Monday, March 14th, 2022. Call the meeting to order at 4 p.m. As we're now back in the office and the council chambers, we would like to ask everybody to turn off their mobile device, put them on vibrate or silent mode as we get into our meeting. Thank you. I'll ask if there's any additions or deletions to the agenda. We have one deletion under 14, new business. 14A. Anything else? Okay. I have a motion here that council hereby accepts the agenda for Monday, March 14, 2022, regular meeting of council as circular amended. Moved by. Okay. Councilor Debuchy. We have Councilor Lake on the video screen, and so you can speak up as well, Councilor, if you need to. Okay, all in favor? Jerry?
Yes.
Thank you. So for the first part of the motions, I'm going to, till we swear in the Councilor Suki will just be 4, and then on the other ones, I'll just be 5. Okay. Any declarations of interest today? Hearing none. I do have a motion here that council hereby adopts the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on Monday, February 14th, 2022, and closed meeting of council held on Monday, February 14th, 2022, and also Monday, March 7th, 2022, and the special meeting of council held on Monday, March 7th, 2022, as circular amended. Moved by
Councilor Allen.
Okay.
Councilor Lake.
Thank you. Any errors, omissions, or questions on those minutes? Hearing none, I'll call a question. All in favor?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, this evening we have a special delegation, and Mr. Skorchinski is going to process this item A under delegation.
All right, thanks, Your Worship. Did you hear me nice and loud, Mr. Suki?
Yep.
So you should have your declaration of office in front of you. So I'll ask once I read 1 through 4, and then the final statement that you repeat after me, please.
Okay.
I, Zachary Suki, having been appointed to the office of councillor in the municipality of Marathon, do solemnly promise and declare that I will truly, faithfully, and impartially exercise this office to the best of my knowledge and ability. I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise thereof for the exercise of this office in a biased, corrupt, or in any other improper manner. I will disclose any pecuniary interest, direct or indirect, in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, or the reigning sovereign for the time of being. And I do make this solemn promise and declaration conscientiously, believing it to be true and knowing that it is of the same force and effect as if made under oath. So I would ask that you read those 4 and the final statement, please.
I, Zachary Suki, have been appointed to the office of councillor in the municipality of Marathon, do solemnly promise and declare that I will truly, faithfully, and impartially exercise this office to the best of my knowledge and ability. I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise thereof for the exercise of this office in a biased, corrupt, or in any other improper manner. I will disclose any pecuniary interest, direct or indirect, in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, or the reigning sovereign for the time being, and I make this solemn promise and declare conscientiously, believing it to be true and knowing that it is of the same force and effect as if made under oath.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Mr. Suki.
Thank you.
I'd like to take the opportunity on behalf of council to welcome you aboard. Look forward to the next several months, at least till the election in 2022, where we'll have the opportunity to all put our names on the ballot then. I want to take the opportunity to also thank the individuals who also submitted their name. There was 4 other individuals who submitted their name for council seat. That shows that there is interest in our community to provide leadership, and I want to take that opportunity to all those individuals who are at home to thank them for putting their name forward. Everybody did a great interview and presented their views of the community very well, and we really appreciate that. So Look forward to also seeing all those individuals in the future, in October, putting their names on the ballot. So thank you very much and welcome aboard, Mr. Suki.
Thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, so let's get right into the business. And now you are now sworn in, so you can make comment and add anything you'd like to through the delegations that are coming forward. Mr. Brown will be up next from NOSH, and he'll give us an update of the upcoming 14-bed expansion at the Wilson Memorial General Hospital. Mr. Brown. Yeah, come on down.
Is that microphone okay?
You're on with the green. Good.
Green.
Good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mayor and Council, for opportunity to present today, a short 10-minute deputation or less. Congratulations, Councillor Suki. Great opportunity for you and the community to benefit from your years of wisdom. Of course, my name is Adam Brown. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the North Superior Healthcare Group. I'm accompanied today by two colleagues. Two colleagues, my administration relations team here behind me. I'm not sure that we can see on camera. We got Megan McDonald on my left and Emily Bruce on my right. So they are really the brains behind the operation here, and I'm the talking face.
Great.
Find a better looking face than this.
Welcome, ladies.
So I'm hoping today to give you a brief overview of some exciting news at the North Superior Healthcare Group. Okay, so just a little bit about us. I think most people know who we are. We are the North Superior Healthcare Group. We were formed in 2016 as an amalgamation of the former McCausland Hospital and Wilson Memorial General Hospital corporations. Here, a little graphic up top there, you see four buildings. Of course, for more than buildings, we are the people inside those buildings. Top left, we have the Wilson Memorial General Hospital in Marathon. It's a two-bed community hospital. Top right is the McCausland Hospital based in Terrace Bay. It's a 23-bed community hospital. Your bottom left is the Wilkes Terrace Long-Term Care, which is built in 2011, which is a 23-bed long-term care home. Of course, we all know the bottom right, which is the Snyder Senior Supportive Housing Corporation, which we are operators. We're of course not the owners. That's owned by the Senior Supportive Housing Corporation. And we're happy to be participating with the town of Marathon on that exciting development a couple of years ago. Next slide. The meat of our announcement here today, and it's already fine, but we're really pleased to be participating in the expansion of long-term care facilities in the province of Ontario. Minister Calandra and the provincial government have been very public about the desire to build 30,000 net new long-term care beds in the province. We are fortunate in Marathon that we've been approved for a small long-term care home, 14 beds. You can see, we keep going. You can see highlighted in yellow there. From the press conference that Minister Calandra had, 14 new beds in Marathon allocated to the North Superior Healthcare Group. Construction of this long-term care wing which will be attached to the Wilson Memorial General Hospital, is expected to start by spring of 2023. So in government speak, that is the speed of light. As well. On the next slide, we have why is this project important to Marathon? I think it's pretty well obvious, but the hospital Marathon is full all the time, every day. Chronic wing, which is 12 beds, which is our de facto long-term care home in Marathon, is 100% full. It has been since our renovations in 2002. There's always a wait list to get into that building. In addition to that, our acute wards, or our traditional acute hospital ward, always has chronic-like patients or long-term care-like patients in it as well. We, on average, have 3 acute, or what we call ALC, alternate level of care patients in that ward. Those folks should not be in acute beds. They should be in chronic and long-term care beds. Above and beyond that, we do know that, particularly in our facility in Terrace Bay, Wilkes Terrace, also our chronic ward in Terrace Bay, there are several, I think 5 or 6 currently, residents either of Marathon or Beacon Nishnawbe or Nipissing Nishnawbe First Nations who are residing in Terrace Bay because there's physically no space for them to receive their long-term care needs in the community. So we feel it's really important that we work hard to repatriate them to their home communities, closer to their families. Beyond that, in 2018, of course, we built a Peninsula Manor that's fully occupied. 36 apartments are full. I believe about 40 folks in this apartments right now. What we've experienced in the last year or so is the level of care that we've had to provide in that building has become a little bit elevated. So beyond what we envisioned for a senior supportive housing facility. NOSH is currently providing 24/7 PSW support for about 10 residents and tenants, all those in that building, and those folks are getting to the point in their life where the senior supportive housing is not enough care for them. So they're going to be seeking care next, but as well as well in long-term care facility. Why else is it important? We are hopeful that the generation mining project is going to proceed, and even despite that generation mining project, we all know housing in Marathon is totally unavailable. If we're able to house 14 local residents, presumably that would fit 14 housing stocks in the community, to be useful for folks, the younger folks looking for by building upon the hospital facility. So this is what happens to the building, and I'll show you the here in the next slide. It's going to be really financially efficient, operationally efficient. We'll share boilers, we'll share maintenance facilities, we'll share kitchens and chapels and all those things that make buildings expensive to run. So it's a really efficient model that we've proven out in our facility in Terrace Bay, which does much the same thing. Works there, so share this facility. From an economic perspective, it's important because we're going to create a bunch of new jobs. We're looking at 15 new full-time equivalent jobs. These are union, well-paid jobs, particularly RPNs and OWs. So those are family support wage type jobs for benefits and pensions and all that important stuff. And there's obviously a number of support services type jobs that we created as well. So dietary aides and cooks and housekeepers and that sort of thing. So whole gamut of jobs that are important to our community. And overall, we'll spend about $1.4 million on an annual basis in our community. That will be that money heading out to other facilities outside of that. Just going. Everybody got this advance?
We'll post it to our site.
On the next slide, we have just a very quick print, and I apologize for the simplicity of this print. It was done in Microsoft Excel, but it does give a little schematic of what our long-term care wing will look like. So it'll be on the south end of our building, 90 degrees to the east-west orientation. So kind of adjacent to the EMS building right now. Fits in that plot of land very nicely with very little construction required from a structure basis. We will use existing water, sewer, electrical, parking lots, et cetera, et cetera. So it'll slide in quite nicely without tremendous amount of work. Cool facts and figures. So we have 14 beds. We envision currently that 4 of them will be private rooms, so single occupancy, as well as 5 shared occupancy rooms. And we would like to have all single occupancy, but the reality is that not everybody can afford single occupancy. It's an expensive proposition to long-term care home, about $4,500 a month. If you're in a shared occupancy, it's a rent your data situation. It's not rent, of course, but a cost shared income type of situation. So it's a much more accessible to many of our residents. There'll be shared recreation services, utilities, and spiritual facilities in the building. Probably about 7,000 square feet, a $5 million build. And what we're looking to do is reach into the pockets of our community as we always tend to do, and count on the generosity of communities and our corporate partners. So we have to raise about $1 million to support the $5 million build. The Ministry of Long-Term Care offer to popular belief does not give us $5 million to build. It gives us about $650,000 to build it up front. That really supports the engineering and the professional side of it in advance of it. So with $1 million of fundraising, about $650,000 of ministry support, we'll still be looking to finance about 3.4 long-term. The ministry does give us some construction funding subsidy of about $114,000. We'll pay for a good portion of the mortgage. Mortgage will be about $150,000. Won't go crazy in the next couple of years. So that's the financial side of it. The project timeline I mentioned earlier was very aggressive. The ministry is envisioning a spring 2023 build. So it's most important is project development agreement is in place. We're hopeful that we'll have that in the next 2 weeks. Time will tell. The ministry is quick to announce things and maybe less quick to actually finalize things. But we need that development agreement in place so we can get the engineering start spending some money with the view to having our project approved. And knowing the contractors that we have available in our communities and we're quite confident we can build that and have it ready for operation within 1 year. So spring and summer. Or we would envision moving residents into that building. Now, they asked, besides our quick reputation and opportunity to highlight the project, is that we can work with the town of Marathon as we have on a number of other projects, most of them support housing and building, on the financial side of the operation. So potentially looking for some support towards our $1 million fundraising opportunities through direct project funding if that's available, but more than likely working with Daryl and his administrative team on looking at grants for things like the Green Fund and coordinating items like building permits and perhaps some tipping fees, et cetera, to try to keep our cost of that project in today's really inflationary times to a manageable level, and perhaps working with Daryl again in this team regards to the other large number of projects that we hopefully are going to have in place in the next couple of years, where contractors, et cetera, might be busy, and trying to coordinate the timing of those contractors so we're not fighting over them. The opportunity to work with administration, with council's blessing on this project going forward. Any questions?
Great, thanks, Sam. Thanks, Sam. Does anybody have any questions of Mr. Brown? Councilor Brown?
Well, thank you very much for the presentation, Mr. Brown. You mentioned employment in your presentation. Will this also provide kind of a spin-off for other healthcare occupations, ultrasound, RT, that kind of stuff, or is it strictly more nursing, PSW?
Yeah, more focused on the nursing for sure, and this is one of the efficiency things that we talked about. So we won't have to have extra physiotherapists, likely, for example. Not that they're available in their community; they're difficult people. But our existing physiotherapy pool will be able to provide services. Mostly RPNs and PSWs.
Councilor Lake?
Thank you, Your Worship. Sorry, the sound was off and on, so if this got answered, I'm sorry, Adam. I'm really excited, and I think all of us have been around long enough to know that the capital is sometimes the easy part, and the place that I worry about a little bit is I know nursing has been an issue in the hospital generally. I'm trying to remember back a few years when I think they offered the RN program in Marathon, and we actually had a pretty good uptake. Are there those sorts of partnerships available that the town could support to once again try to, create some of those opportunities for folks in our community that might want to take that path? I'm just, I worry about that as the pinch point, right? Can we get enough people to staff this fabulous facility?
Yeah. I want to say 17. Yeah. And that's the need of our workforce today. We also hosted an RPN program, registered practical nurse program in 2008, 2010 in our community as well. That's the need of our RPN pool right now. We are currently hosting another RPN program in Terrace Bay in collaboration with Confederation College. There's 10 locals, Marathon, Manitowoc, and Big Government Nabik as well. Those has 1 or 2 students set. That will be the next pool of RPNs, but we do need more. And the opportunity for collaboration is exactly as you point out. I think of the 2010 RPN program, we used the Lakeview Community Hall as the kind of the classroom, if you will. We would likely be reaching out for support because we are going out to train our own local. Yes.
Thank you.
Good, thanks. Councilor Brown?
And I just want to add on to that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Brown, but I believe NOSH is in partnership right now with Confederation College for the Skills Advanced Ontario program.
Yeah.
That's doing free PSW and HSW tuition, Councilor Lake. So there's a program we run right
That's
now.
exactly. And
PSW.
PSWs are the heavy lifters in long-term care, so we will need likely 10 PSWs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and those are full-time jobs. They're fairly attractive.
I'm sorry, did you say 50 jobs or
15 total? Probably 10 of them will be PSWs.
Okay, that was a good point you just made, because that was going to be part of my questioning, because with the COVID-19, we had a real dilemma with PSWs running around from location, and they were very frustrated because they did 2 hours here, 1 hour there, home care, 1 hour back at this facility. So you're talking having PSWs, RPNs as full-time staff to.
Yeah, as much as possible. In the appropriate wisdom, the Ministry of Long-Term Care recently, in the last 6 months now, has elevated staffing levels in long-term care in response to all the negative things that happened during COVID. So by the time we are to open our long-term care here at Marathon, we'll be required to have 4 hours of care per resident per day. And that allows us to have 2 PSWs 24/7 round the clock and one RPN.
Councilor Debussy.
I
Thank
under-
you, Councilor.
oh.
Nope, go ahead.
I understand the in-kind portion, building permits, fees and whatnot. I am not a big fan of subsidizing projects that are government funded, but I am supportive of the project. So in this process, could it be possible that you could work with administration that you build in those costs as part of your tender, as part of your operation? And we as council consider that part of our donation to the hospital. So it isn't in kind, so we don't have other projects coming forward that might be as worthwhile, saying, well, we gave the hospital a break on tippy fees, building permits, et cetera. So what I would suggest is if you work with administration and our works not, or our bylaw, or whoever it may be, who handle those things, and administration, so that those things are incorporated as your true costs.
Yeah.
Yet, but we can, as council, can consider those as in kind, but not the direct portion. Well, you get 3 tippy fees, or you're not liable for the building permit. It sets a bad precedent because every project feels they're worthwhile.
Yeah.
Yet it's hard for us to pick and choose and say, yes, we're going to give you a break on this, but not them. So one of the suggestions is work with administration on how we can do that, as opposed to us giving or us giving a contribution to the project, so that it's not setting a precedent where other worthy or equally valued projects come forward and ask for the same things. And we can do that on a case basis as I say, while the precedent has been set.
Yeah, no, I super appreciate that. And the optics are important that reaching out to another government agency for support. And I know Daryl and his team mentioned, for example, the Green Fund opportunity. This is something that was not on my radar screen.
Yeah.
Daryl and his team have on their radar screen. So I look forward to the blessing to work with administration.
And you have a NOVA and AMO representative
Right.
who manages those funds on behalf of the government.
Great, thank you.
Councilor Lake.
Yeah, thank you. So, I think we've had a few talks around like a community ought to be able to take care of its residents from cradle to grave. And that's one of the things that I think small towns struggle with for a long time. You had to go to Terrace Bay for long-term care. Does this, in your mind, Adam, sort of complete that puzzle of continuum of care so that are we still missing something, or do you feel like we finally now got that continuum from, in your own house, living a healthy life right to the end of life care? Are we there now?
You never get there, Councilor Lake, but it's certainly a progression. So I want to call it a campus of care that is developing in that area. So you've got the primary care folks, Berkeley Clinic, with all 8 or 9 doctors in our community, which is exceptional for a northern community. You've got the hospital that provides that emergency care, the acute care, all the services around diagnostics and lab and that sort of thing. And of course, you progress to the senior supportive housing facility, which is designed to be an independent living facility, so still a home. I guess my microphone's not good. And then long-term care is obviously the next iteration. That would be I don't want to be cold or callous about this, but the last step in the journey of life. And that's where you go to finish your remaining days. So it does kind of close that whole continuum, Councilor Lake. And of course, we are one of the few small communities that still deliver babies. If you want to go right to the beginning, to the cradle, and are working hard to support that program as well. Recently purchased a $25,000 tub to support that program and trying to rejuvenate.
Great, thanks, Mr. Brown. I think we're running out of time in regards to the actual delegation timeline, but the reality is that Councilor Debussy and I think all councils here support the project. Of course, cradle to grave scenario, we want to support the care in our community as best we can. But obviously, going into an election this year, we this council really can't commit for the future council. But in working with the administration, you know that you got full support, and you always have that support in regards to any type of programs that are available. But I would encourage you to bring back in the fall after the election the request for funding. You're going to need that $1 million, and I think going into 23 budget year, the council that's elected could definitely work with Minosh and do kind of fundraising we can support the community itself, the municipality can support. I think it's an awesome program. And of course, when you stated that the $5 million was not given by the Ontario government other than the initial $600,000 to $800,000 potential upfront money to get the blueprints and design and construction started, everybody's always under the assumption that the Ontario government comes with a pot full of money. That's not always the case, as you know. So thank you for that, and thank you for the presentation today. And we look forward to a great partnership with our administration and the council going forward, and the future council for the funding model 23 construction year. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Thanks, Adam.
Okay. Up next, we have a student council report. Councillor Mischicks.
All right, so to start my report
You
today.
want to, excuse me, you want to grab Mr. Councillor Mel's mic? Thank you. Perfect.
All right, so to start my report today, it is March break for all of the students across Ontario. That includes Marathon High School. Classes will resume on March 21st. When they do return, there's going to be some massive changes in the COVID-19 protocols for the high school. So we're going to see some large changes with the masks. They're going to be optional for students, but the choice they'll be able to make. It's recommended that they do continue to wear masks. Again, it's their choice. They recommend talking that out with parents and guardians, kind of making that decision amongst themselves. Many school activities such as sports and extracurriculars are going to return back to the way they were pre-COVID. So I'm not entirely sure what that means, but that's kind of the province's statement there. Proof of vaccination will no longer be required for sports. So I know that was a bit of an issue for a couple of students at high school, but that's no longer going to be required. Masks and rapid COVID-19 test kits are also going to be available from the high school. So if students or staff need them, we're going to pick them up there. And if there's any extra questions about this, there's a fact sheet posted to Facebook and a letter from the Director of Education. Sports at Marathon High School. On Thursday, March 10th, Marathon High School welcomed athletes from Nipigon Red Rock High School. We welcomed the junior boys basketball team, junior girls volleyball, and senior girls volleyball. Marathon High School did extremely well, winning all of their games. Students not participating in the sports were able to watch with the live streams on Facebook. I know they have a couple of them still up there if you're interested in watching those. There was a student council meeting held on March 3rd. Hoping to get some dances and things like that back going for the high school. And then Superior Greenstone District School Board is looking for interested students to run for the student trustee election in the spring. Interested students are encouraged to reach out to school staff about that if they want more information on that.
Great. Thanks. Anybody have any questions? Councillor Mischicks? Councillor Bell.
And I guess this is a question more for administration, but if one of our student counselors did want to choose to go for the student trustee position, would they have to choose between one or the two, or would they be able to do both? Because that's a paid position.
We'll
Yeah.
make note and we'll look into it. If we never have to deal with it, then we'll certainly have the
Okay.
answer.
Great. Thanks. Okay, thanks for the report. Yeah, next we have report and declaration of emergency. Mr. Skorczynski.
So thanks, your worship. This is a discussion item that predates the December 2021, when we talked about bringing forward or rescinding our bylaw with respect to our declaration of emergency as it relates to COVID-19. The discussion at the time was that we were going to wait to see what the province did with respect to the COVID stage 2. Obviously now we're moving forward with no masks. The requirement for proof of vaccination is no longer in place. So administration just wants to hear from council whether or not they would like us to bring forward the bylaw to be rescinded at a future council meeting. I believe there's no need to carry it forward beyond March from an administrative perspective based on where the province is headed, but did want to hear from council on how we should proceed, please.
Thank you. I think it's appropriate hearing from Councillor Mischicks as well as the government announcing potentially on the 21st of March that they're going to, remove the mask mandate and other restrictions are going to be lifted, the vaccination, those such things. When we set out the emergency declaration on March 23rd, 2020, we didn't have a lot of clues of what the impacts were going to be from COVID-19. We've lived the last 2 years, so I believe that's appropriate for you to bring back that bylaw to be rescinded at our March 28th meeting. That's the date of the next meeting. Council has some other ideas on that. Councillor Valens?
I would be in support of that because definitely if that's the direction the province is going into, I think it would just kind of muddy the waters and add to confusion if we kept something that kind of not contradicts, but just is going against what the province is doing.
Sure, thank you. Councillor Talushi?
I think we have time for us to contact the local hospital and the local health unit and get their take on it too. We are isolated, or some won't say isolated, but we are a little pocket community. So I think what's best for our community is paramount as opposed to what the government is saying is best for a province. I think if we do go into consultation with the stakeholders who will have to do it. If there's an uptake, the hospitals would have to deal with it. The district health unit would have some recommendations. It's not, in fact, or it's not without reason for us to extend it or exceed it to find out the wait period. One of the worst things that may happen is if we drop it on the magic number of March 27th and then find we have an uptake and then now we're back into recovery mode or what it might be. So I think we need to consult both the health unit, the hospital, the stakeholders who are involved, which would be the healthcare professionals. Find out what they feel would be comfortable. I think even the schools, would be a point we should have. I think we have to make decisions that are based best on the community. And, we are somewhat isolated, but we aren't, in the sense. So I think it's, it may be time for us in the next 2 weeks to gather that information so that we can bring it back and then make an informed decision. Just because the government says one thing doesn't make it always right for everybody. And I think, we as elected officials should kind of look at our little piece of the world and see what's maybe best for us as opposed to, the universal call to do away with masks or do away, to remove those precautions, I'll say. So, I think once the fresh air comes out and people can move around and, it'll help. But we all know spring doesn't come on March 27th in Marathon. So, we're still enclosed, we're still, shut in a sense. So I think it's something that we explore. I think if it comes to, from recommendations from the health units and, say the medical professionals that, that maybe, yeah, we can do it, because there's going to be some people who are really cautious about moving forward just because the government said it either was or picked a magic number. So I think, I'm willing to hear it, the information that administration can bring forward from the stakeholders and then make a decision based on that.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Suki?
Yeah, I'm just going to build off what Councillor Tabushi said. I completely agree with everything he said, but I know for like healthcare settings, and Adam would know this maybe a little bit better than I would, but for our business as well, kind of considered a healthcare setting, I know we still have to require to wear masks until April 27th, I believe it is. So come March 21st, I don't think it's an absolute free-for-all, but I know that more so relates like public recreation and restaurants and some of those settings where the masks are removed eventually anyways. So again, something we can consider as council and administration on how we want to move forward, but I just wanted to add, like for some settings we'll still require masks, right? I'm sure a lot of people will still choose to wear them in certain settings, right? But at least they have that freedom of choice.
Okay, thank you. So what the question is basically is to remove the state of emergency, which we declared on March 23rd, 2020, to give us powers under the state of emergency declaration to impose any type of bylaws within our community. So what administration is asking us is we remove the state of emergency within the community on March 23rd. Whether the government of Ontario removes masks or vaccine passports, whatever, that's up to the government of Ontario. I think Councillor Tabushi made mention about hospitals and health unit. I've been on many health unit meetings over the last several months, and Dr. DeMille is very clear, stating that the Omicron virus is here. People are working within it. The hospitals are not overwhelmed. The amount of stay in hospitals are very minimal compared to the Delta variant. So we're just got to consider the declaration removal as of the 23rd of March 2020 and going to the 28th of March 2022. That's the question I think administration is asking. Do you feel comfortable removing the declaration of emergency on the 28th of March? Councillor Bell.
Yes.
Councillor Lake.
Yes.
Councillor Suki.
Yes.
Councillor Debussy.
No.
Okay. So bring a motion to change the bylaw on the 28th of March to rescind the declaration of emergency. Okay, up next we have a report on the 2021 DWQMS compliance report for drinking water. I see Mr. Harrison.
Mr. Harrison, I'm available.
Thank you.
So the Drinking Water Quality Management System, DWQMS annual report must be provided to Municipal Council before March 31st, 2022. The review of the report is one of the methods by which municipal officials may help fulfill the obligations required by Section 19, which is a standard of care municipal drinking water system of the Safe Drinking Water Act. Schedule 22 requires the development and distribution to town council of an annual report summarizing the incidents of regulatory non-compliance and associated corrective actions, in addition to providing flow monitoring results for the purpose of enabling the owner to assess the capability of the system to meet existing and planned demand. Following documents are submitted to council for information today. 2021 DWQMS management review, that was October the 6th. The infrastructure review from 2021, that was November the 18th. The annual report submitted by Northern Waterworks on our behalf, 2021. And the DWQMS inspection report from the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks that was conducted on September the 22nd, 2021. Following are the highlights from the information that was submitted in those reports. Management Review 2021. The review is intended to evaluate the continuing suitability, adequacy, and effectiveness of the town's distribution system. The DWQMS Management Review Committee concluded that based on the information presented, Marathon Operations Plan facilitates our ability to consistently deliver drinking water that meets applicable regulatory requirements and enhances customer or consumer protection. The Infrastructure Review 2021. Maintenance programs were discussed and our current high level of preventative maintenance will be continued. 2021 draft budget requests were analyzed for their relevance to this review, and all planned maintenance will be accounted for at the current budget level. All action items from the meeting have since been completed as scheduled. The MOE inspection conducted on September 22nd, 2021 had a number of non-compliance items with associated actions that were required. Actions required are linked to incidents of non-compliance with regulatory requirements contained within an act, a regulation, or site-specific approvals. Such violations could result in the issuance of mandatory abatement instruments, including orders, tickets, or penalties, or referrals to the Ministry's Investigation and Enforcement Branch. Our required corrected actions included the monitoring and recording of all flow at wells number 2 and 3 during the inspection period is not acceptable and does not meet the requirements set out in MDWL 2030-101 Schedule C, which is new flow meters for well 2 and well 3 have been installed and calibrated by Northern Waterworks, and that action has been corrected. The owner and operating authority shall ensure that all details pertaining to events as mentioned above are recorded in future logbook entries chronologically and meet requirements as detailed. Logbook records were sent to the undersigned inspector for the months requested, and that action has been corrected as well. And there was a diesel fuel spill of approximately 1,800 liters released onto the ground on October 11, 2020 at 54 Stevens Avenue, which was associated with the Ballard camp at the time. Provide the undersigned, the required corrective action was provide the undersigned inspector with a copy of the formal report. That's currently being completed by TBT this month. We've had a number of discussions with the MOE. That well is now back in service and proved to be done so. And the final action required is just to provide the formal report to the MOE for final sign-off. So financially, budget recommendations submitted to council are based on best practice for improvements and repairs. This year's budget, if my memory serves me correctly, is approximately $270,000 for drinking water upgrades and our system improvements. And the approval has been given by council and subsequently given to Northern Water to start to undertake those improvements for 2022. So there are no options with this report. This is the administration presenting the 2021 Drinking Water Quality Management System Compliance Report for council's information purposes, and any questions you may have.
Great, thanks for that report. I do have a motion here that council hereby accepts the attached report and recommendation on 2021 DWQMS compliance report. For that the report being presented for members of information purposes only. Moved by Councilor Debuchy, second by Councilor Valens. Any questions of Mr. Skorczynski on that? Councilor Lake.
Yeah, so normally there are very few adverse kind of stuff in these reports. This is 3 more than we normally get. So it was the logbook one in particular. Has there been a change in inspector, or is there something we need to correct with our water vendor?
There has been a change in an inspector, and that has resulted in a couple of, I would say, non-traditional items. But there was some sloppiness. with respect to specifically around the logbook item, both Mr. Paris and myself had a number of meetings with Northern Water over the last number of months to ensure that's been corrected. It has. We've now gone from what was traditionally a handwritten logbook to an electronic digital logbook. So those types of errors going forward won't be made.
Anything else?
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. I do, in regards to that, because now that this has been made aware of the municipality, we are the actual ones responsible, this council is responsible for the distribution of safe, clean drinking water. We know what happened in Walkerton when that wasn't taken care of. What is the penalty for the actual contractor that we contract out on this water systems and water supply systems if they're not doing their job properly?
Yeah, so that's an excellent question. We've never had to enforce anything. I would actually have to go through our contract with Northern Water. There would be a section as it relates to enforcement of penalties. Traditionally, we've had excellent compliance. Our compliance manager, Nicholas Kyle out of Red Lake, is excellent. I would say these are somewhat unique. We haven't seen them in the past. And like I say, I think we have them corrected. We've met with upper management at Northern Water and explained our dismay with receiving these on the inspection report. But I'd be happy to put a memo together for council just on what those penalties would be.
Yeah, that would be appropriate maybe, and have Mr. Paris present that to council over the next month or two, just to see where that is, because like anything, Walkerton was very simple, but it was you know, just got stale and routine in the process, and just put numbers in that weren't necessarily there. Similar to what's happened in the situation here, where maybe our logbooks weren't being kept up in a proper manner, and you know, standard, you know, every day, well, it's 1.3. It maybe is 1.3 today, it might be 1.10 tomorrow, whatever, right?
Yeah, and I think it's also important to note for council that you know, we don't wait until, you know, the MOE does an annual inspection to correct items. You know, as senior management, we review on a monthly basis. We review compliance reporting. So generally, we've dealt with a lot of these items, but of course, when we do have to go through inspection, we have to report, even self-report, if there's items of non-compliance. But we'll bring a report forward. It'll be a good highlight for council, and especially new councillor Suki with respect to some of those items as it relates to DWPMS.
Great, thanks. Anything else? Okay, good, thank you. All in favor?
Good.
Carried, thank you. Up next, we have a motion for check runs, and this motion is for the following check runs from January 2022. The amounts, accounts payable $651,900.31, and payroll in the amount of $207,574.33. Moved by Councillor Bell, second. Councillor Debuchy. Any questions of those check runs? Hearing none, call a question. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, thanks. I just, thank you both over there. The ones on video, sorry, because I don't see your hand unless I look over, but thank you. Up next, we have bylaw number 2020 being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 2016 being a bylaw to authorize the establishment of fees and charges for the town of Marathon for the year ending December 31st, 2022 to be read first, second, and third time. Finally passes 14th day of March 2022. And need a mover and second for that. On the floor. Councillor Debuchy, second by Councillor Ballant. Any questions of those fees and charges for the year 2022 that we've already discussed in December of 2021?
Sorry, just one quick question. There's no changes between the last time we had the discussion and now, right? It's just coming forward now?
Yep.
So we've added the only change is the boat launch fee, which hadn't previously been approved by council, is now included in the bylaw.
Okay, that's great then. Thank you.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Carried, thank you. We deleted item A. Item B, a motion to be presented declaration of surplus property at Chisholm Trail. I have a motion here that council hereby declare the property described as surplus as highlighted in the cross hatch as attached map presented to council. And PIN number 62448-1509 parcel blocks 1, 1510 parcels blocks 1, block 11, 1511 blocks 1, block 12, 1512 section parcel block 1, block 13, and PIN number 1513, parcel block 1, parcel block to parcel block 14. These are 5 separate lots that are up on the heights on Chisholm Trail. Referred to the clerk to dispose of these properties following the town's procurement bylaw number 1822. So I need mover and second to put that on the floor.
Councilor Balance?
Councilor Brown. Councilor Debuchy. Any questions, errors, or omissions on those lots? Block. Nothing?
Sorry, just one.
Yeah, Councilor Lake?
Sorry, in the PDF that we got for this meeting, I don't have the attached map. We're talking about the serviced lots that are up near Margaret Toomey. Is that?
That is correct. So the 5 lots are directly across from Margaret Toomey. They're all zoned multi-residential. For whatever reason, when we brought forward, and I think this is dating back to maybe 2008, the original report on surplus properties in the Heights, on Chisholm Trail, a couple on Godfrey, for whatever reason, we only included residential and did not include multi-residential. So, up until I would say, 5 months ago, there was never an interest in these properties. Obviously, with the potential of the Generation PGM mine, we now have some interested developers in looking at these properties. So it's strategic that we declare them surplus to the municipality's needs. We're obviously not going to build a multi-residential building. This gives administration the flexibility to work with developers on plans that might be a fit to improve our multi-res housing stock here in town.
Sorry. Maybe one more question. So I'm just trying to, I get why you declare surplus. At one point, I remember when we had the MEDC, we had talked about that as a place to hold things like this because it might be advantageous in terms of the business of the municipality. Is that still the case, or is it just best to declare surplus and let admin do it that way?
Yeah, it really just simplifies the process. Obviously, it's governed by our procurement bylaw. But what it does is it just frees up properties that theoretically wouldn't have much value. So we would still sell them at market value, i.e., $5,000 or $10,000 a lot, which would go into municipal coffers. But it just expedites the process to get these projects moving forward. Very similar to the long-term care construction. It brings new jobs, it brings new units on market, generates new taxation for the municipality. So there's no negatives to not approving them surplus at this point in time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
For
Councilor Sugi, sorry.
for any potential purchasers, would those properties have to remain residential or can only be used for residential purposes and not commercial?
Yeah, so these properties are zoned multi-residential through our zoning bylaw. We would not look to change the zoning of these properties. The only one we might consider going forward if we didn't develop as multi-res is going to single dwelling residential because it fits within the environment out there, but certainly not commercial or any type of M certifications like light industrial.
Okay,
Thank you.
Yeah, one of the reasons that I was a proponent for the Economic Development Corp was for the, I'll say, former mill properties and those things to develop as industrial. So I have no problem with declaring these surplus because I don't think we want to be in the residential business or the multi-residential business. By declaring it surplus, we are still going to ask for market value. We're not declaring it as a cut rate sale or to give. The only other reason I could see moving it into the Marathon Economic Development Corporation is that they could possibly, where the municipality couldn't, do favorable terms on the development of those things, those properties. Because from our perspective, the value of the property, although it has a market value, the taxation on built units on those properties is what is more favorable to the community. So it doesn't show any value or any kind of strategic value to move it into the Marathon Economic Development Corporation so that they can work with developers to develop units or housing stocks in that area?
Not as it relates to residential or multi-residential, because you have to deal with things like water, sewer, site plan control. Those are all municipal functions, zoning and planning amendment requirements. So for those sectors, it remains with the municipality and we charge the market value. Going forward, what Councillor Debuchy is referring to is there is some flexibility with respect to Section 106 of the Municipal Act, which is the bonusing clause. If a property such as light industrial commercial is in the hands of a corporation like an economic development corporation, but we would deal with those on a one-off basis as we move forward with any development plans in that area specifically at the Colonial site.
And would we be favorable to that for any developer who would want to take that bulk of property and move it to development? Because let's be honest, individuals would find it hard to develop multi-res on those issues, but some bigger corporations may look at those properties and say, it may be worthwhile for me to do it. So from the purpose of market value versus economic growth, would it be of any value to put it within our Marathon Economic Development Corporation?
At the current time, I would say no. What we've introduced this year, ahead of the potential boom of the mining development, is a pre-application package that we require all potential developers to submit to us with critical pieces of information. From there, we're able to make that determination on the best path forward with respect to bringing it forward to council. So I think we have a good system in place for 2022. As we ramp up our capabilities and our ability to deal with the potential influx of new houses and new developments, we'll continue to come forward with council on the best path forward.
So that's the best place to warehouse it for now, is within the town and not within the Marathon Economic Development Corporation.
That's correct.
Councilor, you get a question? Very good. Okay, so
All good.
we're declaring a surplus so that there's opportunities, interest that can come to administration and look at an opportunity to look at a multi-res developmental program that goes ahead as subscription scale. So it's just being prepared, and we have property available for that type of development. All good? Okay, call a question. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Carried. Thank you. Okay, up next is information in regards to the Thunder Bay District Municipal League. This went back and forth for a while in regards to the in-person meeting for AGM at the end of this month, March 23rd. 24th, 25th in Thunder Bay. It's right there. The board did decide to have it in person, and then some individuals within the board felt that due to COVID still hanging around, it wasn't appropriate to have it in person, so they're going to go to a virtual conference this year, and then have hopefully the AGM in the fall of 2022. That date hasn't been fixed, so there will be a virtual conference still. So if anybody's interested in signing up, I don't have a motion in front of me, Ms. Lees, for the actual sign up, but if anybody's interested in signing up, we'll have to have that your name submitted or rewrite the motion to because even with the virtual, we'll have to sign up and pay a fee. I'm sure they're making it.
Okay, so what's the information? This may be a correction. It says the AGM will be reorganized as a virtual meeting, and the conference will be in September.
Right.
So we'll bring forward a.
Okay. So they I can read the whole thing. So in regards to that.
So once we have the revised agenda for the fall
for the AGM.
Conference, we'll bring forward a motion.
Okay, good. Thank you. Up next, I have a motion here that council hereby supports the tax request received from the township of Allen, which held amid claiming, I hope I'm saying that correctly, claiming 2022 is the year of the garden in and for the town of Marathon. And for that, the June 18th, we proclaimed a garden day in and for the town of Marathon. We did really well. I need to move our second on the floor first.
Councillor Mel?
Councillor Bells, Councillor Debuchy. Questions, comments? No?
So is this different than Communities in Bloom? This is a one-day issue?
It's Garden Day. Get out there and dig up the black earth and find some pretty flowers. Councillor Valley.
There is a strong synergy between what I guess they're requesting or what's being presented with the project that we have going on in Marathon. Would that be still, and who is the main contact for the plot of flowers and all that along Hemlock? Is that still being ran, that project, or with COVID has that kind of quieted down?
No, it's in the budget. We do have, we have received the request from the group, and we will approve upon last year. We've done a much better job with how we manage that program. But we certainly do plan to clean up that area maintain it much more actively this year. So I think supporting this resolution.
Yeah, we're not gonna get into the full-blown communities and bloom program again as we were in the past, but I think we could just enhance our community with small things and uniformity and the maintenance and community can enhance it with that type of program. Again, volunteerism is great, but municipalities need a lead, and we have volunteers help with the lead of municipalities. So I think Mrs. Skrzynski identified. We did lax a little bit last year on the program and not working with the group, the volunteers, and we could just re-enhance that. So that's basically what it is. Garden Day for the time, brother. So we're all good. Any other questions, Councilor Lake?
Yeah, you know what? I think Garden Day is great, and I think I enjoyed Communities in Bloom where you did it too. But as I look kind of into the future with the cost of gas and the cost of other things, I look at food security and our location as one of those points that makes me nervous. So I just wonder, for administration, supporting like flowers is great, and I think that beautification is a part of it, but I don't feel like we've really tackled that food security question yet. And I know, you look in the history of Marathon, you look at the history of both of our First Nations, there used to be massive community gardens, and there used to be a real understanding that you had to grow your own food when you lived around here. So I don't know how or if administration has any interest in supporting like gardening as a food security item. I just, I'm shocked now when I go to the grocery store and pay for fruits and vegetables. So I just, as we, start thinking about strategic planning and getting into things, that food security item really is kind of resonating with me right now. So I guess I'm just throwing that out there as something I think maybe we ought to discuss at some point.
Yeah, thanks for that, Councilor. I think that would have been a great budget item, as you discussed, and your group along with the St. John's, the United Church individuals started that somewhat smaller community garden, but there is opportunity for us to look at it bigger, and we did do some previous studies on Dryden and their models of having an area with water, a shed, supply, some minor tools that individuals would buy a plot or rent a plot for the season. So that's something we really can discuss, and whether that's a big ticket item or a small ticket item is simple as a shed and a plot of land with some individual above ground framing garden scenarios, similar to what you have over St. John's, I'm assuming, right? Yeah. So if there's more opportunity, maybe you can make that an item that you would present to council's, council's next meeting, maybe the end of March or early April, to have discussions and see if we can dig up some preliminary cost and location of land. I think it's a great idea, but it's a matter of funding it. So.
Yep. Thank you.
Digging up. Yeah. Well, the example of punt. Yeah. Thanks. We got the information.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. With that being said, we'll leave that on your table for bringing back for information, Councilor.
And I would love that. I've also, people have said how, if somebody wanted to have a farm in Marathon, what would the process be? So I would be interested in just sort of looking into that in terms of exploring what's possible in terms of land use around here.
Those types of items are dealt with through our official plan. So certainly that's an eligible activity. It requires the appropriate zoning, but we can sit down and I can take it to the OB.
Councilor Boucher.
Yeah, we, since we've been here, or the mayor and I have been here for a while, in the height of the bird flu, or the avian flu, sorry, we did deny backyard chicken coop. So there are some limitations on much of what we did, we can support. But again, like backyard gardenings or community gardens, you see them in more urban places because the land is at a premium. But I think it's something that Councilor Lake could take on and see what information's out there for those for that idea.
Yeah, that's great, and I think that there's individuals that would take advantage of that. As Councilor Lake knows, there are individuals at the St. John's that are doing it. They just don't have the proper equipment there. We've got a small shed, but a little bit of composting, but not really appropriate. Okay, with that being said, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Harry?
Yes.
Okay. And as you know, NOMA, I was not in attendance of the NOMA meeting in February 23rd. But NOMA has sent in the report of that meeting and highlighted the actual meeting. And I think it's a great tool, not only for Marathon, because you have a board member come in and report on NOMA's meetings, but for all councils now getting this report, getting up to date on what NOMA does and their interactions with the region as well as with AMO. So we're still working hard behind the scenes. And we've bumped up our ED to a full-time position now with an increase in wages because there is a lot more activities that she is doing. So we felt that was appropriate. The board unanimously supported that, and sometimes we feel like we're bombarded with a little too much information. So we've asked her to kind of comb through that as we used to be here at this table. Councillor Tabushi just made mention about how long we've been here. We used to get packages that were maybe 6 hours worth of meeting information. So we're now down to a reasonable stack of information, which is dealt with through administration. So we're doing the same thing in NOMA, and she's doing a great job. Andrea Strawson is our ED, and she's doing a great job. So it's just anybody have any questions on the actual meeting highlights?
I think they're saying they're number board. So are you guys still in person? Because I see it's in Fort Francis, or is it
Yep.
that just?
Yeah, so we've already signed up, Councilor Valance, myself, and Mr. Skorchenski have signed up for the in-person in Fort Francis at the end of April. And that's why I'm a bit confused why my board of the Winnipeg District decided not to go in person in the end of March, but that's a choice they made. But yeah, and then AMO will be, as far as we know. That was a snow falling off the roof. I thought that was something happening in Council Lake. The noise happened right where you guys are both.
That wasn't my fault.
Hot air.
So, yeah, the AMO board is also, we're still recommending the in-person, but they're given options, no different than OGRA and Roma, in-person / even our police AGM, police zone and services meeting is a first in-person for 2 years. So there's options if individuals don't come. Okay? All good?
Yep.
Okay, with that being said, we will adjourn at the hour of 5:01.
Oh, sorry, Worship, just information, but I don't see it in the announcements, but if I can just highlight that we're going to new waste transfer hours beginning on May the 1st. Tuesday and Thursday will be our traditional 2 to 6 p.m. But Saturdays will move to 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., which we hope will better suit the public to be able to utilize the facility in the morning as well as the afternoon. So again, that's effective May the 1st.
Okay. So that's great. Everybody has more opportunities to drop off their waste. Okay.
Better timeline.
Move by.
Councilor Mount?
Thank you.
Councillor Lake.
Thank you. That we do adjourn at the hour of 5:02. Thank you very much and have a good night.
Welcome, Councillor Suki. We'll see you next meeting in person.
You bet. Hopefully.
Hey.
I'll try to stay negative.
Yeah.
Have a good night.
So clever that way.